Okay, so let's really unpack this.
Right.
I think, we've all felt it, this sort of central, almost exhausting frustration.
Oh, definitely. Especially in modern marketing, community building.
Exactly. That feeling.
And if you're listening to this, maybe you're a founder or growth expert,
Mm-hmm.
you know this pain point inside out.
Mm-hmm.
It's that constant grinding feeling, pouring time, money, huge strategic effort into channels. Well, channels you just don't own.
Channels you don't control. We actually have a term for it, right? The instability of leased land.
That's it, exactly. Leased land, you build something great, maybe a vibrant community, huge audience, a profitable way to get customers on one of these big social platforms.
These empires.
Yeah, empires. And then, bam, no warning. Their priorities shift.
Suddenly the algorithm changes overnight. Your organic reach, poof, gone.
Or your ad costs spike 50%, just like that.
And suddenly half your customer reach disappears. Or your whole acquisition model, the math just doesn't work anymore.
Right. For an early company, even a scaling business, that kind of instability, it's not just frustrating. It can literally kill your acquisition model.
It can bankrupt you.
It really can. You're basically just renting space from this giant corporate landlord.
And their incentives are never going to be your incentive.
Never. Their business model isn't aligned with yours, period.
So, okay. The mission for this deep dive feels really crucial then.
Yeah.
It's about finding the escape hatch, isn't it? Getting out of that shaky rented position. We're exploring why the future, maybe the necessary future of the internet, involves a whole lot more small, specialized, owned social networks.
Mini kingdoms, maybe.
Mini kingdoms, I like that. Little digital fiefdoms to push back against these suffocating giants.
So we're going to dig into the economics, the cold, hard reality that kind of locks us in.
And the regulatory debates, too, which are surprisingly tricky.
Yeah, really complex. And then finally, we'll look at the exciting part, the new tools.
Stuff emerging now, part of this Web 4.0 idea.
Exactly. Tools that are actually making it feasible, fast even, to build your own niche community, your own space.
Okay, and here's where I think it gets really, really interesting.
Go on.
This shift, it's not just about dodging risk, right? It's about actively creating value.
Absolutely.
We're going to explore how these specialized communities generate this tangible thing called a loyalty dividend.
A measurable benefit.
Yeah, and how technology, the Linkspreed solution is one example, claiming you can build a network in 30 seconds.
Which sounds pretty wild.
It does. But how this kind of tech is fundamentally changing the economics, shifting ownership back to the creators, the community owners, the people actually generating the value.
Taking back control. That's the core idea.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. Why are these giants, Facebook, X, Instagram, why are they so dominant, so hard to escape, even when they make us, frankly, miserable sometimes?
Yeah, it really boils down to one powerful, almost magnetic economic force.
The network effect.
The network effect. That's the engine. In economics, we call it network externality or demand-side economies of scale. But the basic idea is simple.
The value you get from a service depends on how many other people are using it.
Precisely. The utility, the usefulness, depends on the number of compatible users already there.
And it creates this loop, right? More people join, the platform gets more useful.
Which makes it more attractive for others to join.
Which makes it even more useful. It just feeds on itself.
It's a positive feedback loop, a classic winner-take-all dynamic in action. You see it perfectly with social networks.
Okay, but is it really just about sheer size anymore? Billions of users globally. Does that number alone explain the value?
Well, that's the classic view. But recent research, some pretty sophisticated economic studies, suggests it's actually more nuanced now.
Okay.
The real driver of value seems to be shifting. It's less about the massive total network size and more about what researchers are calling local network effects.
Local network effects, meaning?
Meaning the value created by the specific connections that matter to you. The subset of people you're actually connected to.
So it's not the billion people on Facebook that makes it valuable to me.
Right.
It's that my family is there, my close friends from college are there, my key professional contacts are there.
Exactly. The value is concentrated in those local specific clusters within the giant network. It's much more personal.
Okay, that makes intuitive sense. Has anyone actually, measured this?
They have. Using these pretty clever online choice experiments. Incentive compatible, they call them.
Fancy term for seeing what people really value.
Basically, yeah. Measuring what people would give up to keep certain connections.
Yeah.
And the value is huge. They estimated something like $50 to over $200 billion per year in the U.S. alone, just for platforms like Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, X, consumer surplus.
Wow. Okay.
But here's the crucial finding about that value. It is highly localized.
Yeah.
And get this, connections to the same people but across multiple platforms.
Yeah.
They're valued significantly more than connections on just one platform.
Wait, hang on. That seems backwards. Why would I value connecting with, say, my old colleagues more if I can reach them on both LinkedIn and maybe X instead of just LinkedIn?
It suggests these platforms aren't always just substitutes for each other. Often they act as complements.
Compliments. Like peanut butter and jelly.
Sort of.
Mm.
Think about how we compartmentalize our lives, right? You use the LinkedIn connection for this serious professional stuff, high-value specific function.
Okay.
But maybe the X connection with that same person is for more casual industry chat, sharing articles, different vibe, or Instagram for purely social visual updates with a different group entirely.
Ah, so we use different platforms to manage different parts of our social graph, even with the same people sometimes.
Exactly. We rely on different platforms for specialized interactions. And that user behavior, that preference for compartmentalization,
Yeah.
that really sets the stage for why niche networks are so appealing.
Okay. But before we jump fully into the niche solution, we have to confront the core problem, the tension at the heart of these big platforms.
The price of free.
The price of free. And how our actual social lives, our connections, get turned into, well, a commodity inside these walled gardens.
It's the central friction point of digital capitalism today, isn't it?
Yeah.
These platforms, they offer free stuff, connection, content, community.
Things we value.
Absolutely. But the flip side is the aggressive commercial exploitation of those very connections and interactions.
And in this model, the user. We're not just passive consumers watching TV.
No, not at all. We're prosumers.
Producer plus consumer.
Right. We're consuming the content, sure, but we're also producing the content. The posts, the photos, the arguments, the data trails. That's the actual product.
Our interactions are generated content. That's what the platform is actually selling.
That's the fundamental product they package up and sell to advertisers, to data brokers, to anyone who wants to influence behavior.
So the core deal is we get to use the platform, connect with people.
But the price of admission, the price for full engagement, is basically donating our personal data.
The old saying, if you can't see the price.
You are the commodity. You're the product being sold. And these aren't just passively logging clicks. They're gathering immense, intimate data streams about us.
Often way beyond what we consciously realize we're giving away.
Absolutely. Which brings us back to that creepy line.
Yeah, the point where personalization feels like surveillance.
Exactly. But the source material used a really interesting term for how this data gets collected, especially the subtle stuff. It called the tech a compactant.
A compactant. Okay, unpack that one. Sounds like jargon.
It is a bit jargony, but it's useful. It refers to the ways, often passive, sometimes aggressive, that algorithms track our behavior to figure out our effective state.
Our mood, our level of engagement, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's not just what you click or type. It's much sneakier.
Give me an example. What's this compactant actually tracking that shows my mood?
Okay, think about tiny things, micro interactions. How fast are you scrolling? Are you zipping through or are you pausing, lingering over something?
Okay.
Does your mouse cursor hover over an image, even if you don't click? Do you go back and look at the same post twice?
Ah, I see. These little subconscious actions.
Right. They reveal engagement, boredom, interest, confusion, all sorts of effective signals. The compactant scoops all this up, bundles it, and uses it for behavior marketing.
Yeah.
And critically, for delivering nudges.
Nudges, subtle pushes to keep me scrolling or click this ad or maybe even think a certain way.
Precisely. So you hesitate for, say, 3 seconds over an ad for running shoes, even if you don't click like or anything.
Yeah.
The system logs that hesitation as high interest. Boom. You're seeing running shoe ads everywhere for the next week.
Even though I never explicitly said I was interested.
Exactly. And you, the user, have almost zero visibility or control over what's being collected, how it's being interpreted, who's buying the ability to send you those nudges.
That lack of transparency, that lack of autonomy, that's a huge driver pushing people towards wanting their own space, isn't it?
It's a massive motivator for seeking self-sovereignty, getting out from under that system.
Okay, so you have these dominant platforms, this massive data collection. Inevitably, regulators get involved.
Yep. eyes turned towards policy solutions.
And the big idea being debated globally, especially heavily in the EU, is mandated interoperability.
Right. Forcing different digital services to talk to each other, to work together.
It gets framed as the super tool, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The key to breaking the grip of these gatekeepers and boosting competition.
It sounds so logical on the surface. If, say, WhatsApp and Signal could just message each other seamlessly.
Mm-hmm.
Problem solved, right? More competition.
Seems like it.
But the economics of forcing interoperability are actually way more complicated than they look. And we absolutely have to distinguish between two different types.
Okay, what are they?
Horizontal and vertical interoperability. Mixing them up leads to bad policy.
All right, let's spend a minute on definitions. Horizontal first.
Horizontal means products or services at the same level working together. The classic example is messaging, sending a text from WhatsApp to Telegram or vice versa.
Okay, same function, different brands.
Exactly. The key feature here is that it allows rivals to share direct network effects. Theoretically, a small new messaging app could instantly tap in to the huge user base of the big guys.
Makes sense. So vertical.
Vertical is between services at different levels in the digital stack. Think about your phone's operating system. That's one level.
Right.
Allowing different app stores another level to run on that OS. That's vertical. Or letting you log into a website using different ID services.
So mixing and matching components.
Yeah. Vertical lets you swap out parts of the system, but it doesn't usually involve sharing the core social graph or communication stream in the same way horizontal does. They have really different economic impacts.
And the big piece of regulation, the EU's Digital Markets Act, the DMA, they grappled with this.
They did. Early proposals focus more on vertical stuff, making gatekeepers open up their systems downwards.
But then politics got involved.
Well, the European Parliament pushed amendments to include horizontal interoperability, specifically for messenger services and potentially even social networks down the line. And this is where some economic research waves a big red flag. There's a strong argument, based on the evidence, that mandating horizontal interoperability could actually be a harmful remedy.
Harmful? How? The whole point is to increase competition. How could making platforms talk to each other hurt competition or consumers?
It sounds totally counterintuitive, I know. But there are basically two big ways it can backfire.
Okay, lay them out.
First, just the technical reality. Making different complex systems talk perfectly is incredibly hard. Horizontal interoperability will likely never be seamless.
It'll be clunky. Limited features.
Probably. You might get basic text messages across, maybe simple media, but the dominant platform will always have better features, smoother performance, more reliability within its own walls. Their core network effects, the quality of the experience, largely remain intact.
So the small player gets a tiny window in, but the big guy still offers the better overall product.
Right. But the second problem is arguably much bigger, and it's about user behavior. Mandated interoperability significantly reduces the incentive for users to multi-home.
Multi-homing, right. That's using several platforms at once, like having accounts on Facebook and TikTok and LinkedIn.
Exactly. Maintaining distinct profiles, distinct activity streams on multiple services.
So how does interoperability reduce that?
Well, think about it. If your main messaging app, Platform A, can seamlessly send messages to your contacts on Platform B, why bother actively using Platform B anymore?
I can just stay on Platform A and still reach everyone.
Precisely. You gain less reason to maintain a separate profile, generate content, or be an active user over on Platform B. You can just use the basic communication layer the interoperability provides while keeping all your primary activity, your posts, your photos, your data centralized on the big, dominant Platform A.
So forcing them to talk makes it easier for users to just stick with the biggest player, and the smaller platforms kind of wither because people aren't really using them anymore?
That's the risk. If multi-homing is actually good for competition because it keeps the big players on their toes and lets niche platforms find an audience, then anything that discourages multi-homing could be anti-competitive.
Wow. So the regulation designed to help competition might accidentally lock in the leader's dominance even more.
It's a serious potential unintended consequence. By making the secondary platform seem less necessary, less distinct.
Okay, so let's connect this back to real people. If interoperability is supposed to make life easier, why do surveys suggest users actually prefer the hassle of juggling multiple accounts, of multi-homing?
Because, fundamentally, users are segmented. They think in compartments. They don't necessarily want one giant blended social feed for everything.
They want different spaces for different parts of their lives.
Exactly. The survey data indicates people prefer multi-homing because it lets them interact with distinct social groups using distinct services. often leveraging specialized features tailored precisely to the needs of that specific group or that specific context.
That feels like a key insight. We choose separation. My work contacts on LinkedIn, my hobby buddies on Discord, my family on WhatsApp.
Right. You don't want your boss seeing your vacation photos or your gaming buddies seeing your professional resume updates. Users naturally seek out niche, specialized environments when they have the choice. We self-select into different communities for different purposes.
So the real path to challenging the monopolies isn't necessarily forcing them to open up basic communication.
Maybe not. Maybe the more effective path is enabling the creation of lots of compelling, specialized, feature-rich alternatives. Alternatives that respect and cater to that innate user desire for compartmentalization, for autonomy.
And that preference, that behavior.
Yeah.
That's the wind in the sails for this whole decentralized mini-network idea.
It's the demand-side pull. Users are voting with their feet, seeking out spaces that better fit their specific needs, even if it means managing multiple accounts.
Okay, so if users actually prefer multi-homing, if they like specialized spaces, then decentralization, building smaller, focused communities seems like the natural fit.
It really does. It becomes the enabler for these niches. We're talking about creating communities that just wouldn't work or wouldn't thrive if they were just, say, a Facebook group buried inside that giant noisy platform.
Right. Places for people with really specific shared interests, like, I don't know, collecting vintage board games or restoring old motorcycles, or maybe advanced techniques in specific software.
Things that need focused conversation, not algorithmic noise. These platforms can foster truly diverse, targeted spaces where people connect authentically, without the constant distraction of irrelevant viral content or ads.
Okay, let's use that example company again, Acme Fitness Gear. They ditched their big, messy Facebook group because of the leased land problems, low reach, high costs, noise.
Right.
What happens when Acme decides, okay, we're building our own mini network? How does their thinking change, especially around economics?
Fundamentally, they move away from the advertising dependency that defines the big platforms.
Because they don't need to sell ads in the same way.
Exactly. A decentralized or owned platform isn't forced to maximize raw engagement time at all costs, often by promoting controversial stuff just to keep eyes glued for ads. Instead, Acme can focus on maximizing value for its specific user base. It becomes much more community-centric.
So what kind of economic models work for Acme in their own little kingdom? You mentioned 3 core blueprints.
Yeah, the first is just leaning into user-generated content, UGC itself.
The conversation is the product.
In a way, yes. For Acme, users aren't just passive buyers anymore. They're active members. They're posting workout tips, reviewing gear, asking each other questions, sharing progress photos.
So that ongoing interaction is the value.
It provides immense value and drives retention. It turns a one-off product purchase into an ongoing relationship, a dynamic community experience.
Okay, what's the second model?
Affiliate marketing, but done right, leveraging the inherent trust within that niche community.
So Acme features some of its star customers, maybe micro-influencers who are genuinely using the gear and getting results.
Exactly. These authentic users can promote specific products within the Acme network, maybe get a small commission. And because it's coming from a trusted peer within that specific community, it feels way more authentic than a generic ad.
Is there data on that? Does peer recommendation actually work better?
Significantly better. One survey found 61% of people trust recommendations from friends, family, or influencers they follow, compared to only 38% trusting content coming directly from a brand.
Wow, almost double the trust level.
Yeah. So Acme's own platform lets them tap into that high-trust environment in a way they couldn't on a big, noisy platform.
Okay, and the third model.
The freemium approach.
Give away the basics, charge for the premium stuff.
Essentially, Acme offers a really solid, valuable, free version of its community. Maybe the main discussion forums, basic social features, enough to get people hooked and see the value.
But the really good stuff is behind a paywall.
Right. Maybe Acme reserves advanced workout tracking integrations, access to personalized coaching sessions, or early bird access to new product drops for members who pay a small monthly or annual fee.
The key is making the free version good enough to draw people in.
And making the premium features compelling enough that upgrading feels like a natural, valuable next step.
So moving beyond just revenue models for Acme Fitness Gear, building their own space instead of renting on Facebook, there's this other benefit you mentioned, the loyalty dividend.
Yes, the loyalty dividend. This is the quantifiable payoff you get from owning the experience.
How does it work?
Because Acme now controls the entire environment. The platform rules, the moderation style, the communication flow, and crucially, no interference from some external algorithm messing with who sees what.
They can build a much deeper, more direct connection with their members.
Exactly. And the research backs this up. Studies show that brands with their own communities are 16% more likely to foster intense brand loyalty compared to brands just relying on, say, a Facebook page or Instagram account.
16% more intense loyalty. That's not trivial. When you think about customer retention, repeat purchases, lifetime value.
It's huge. It's a massive, measurable return on investing in their own platform. It's not just avoiding risk, it's actively generating higher value customers.
And there's another angle here too, right? Future-proofing, especially with all the data privacy regulations swirling around. GDPR, CCPA.
Oh, absolutely critical. Owning the platform gives you control over regulatory compliance.
How so? If Acme was just on Facebook, isn't Facebook responsible for GDPR?
Not entirely. Facebook is the data processor, maybe, but Acme, as the company collecting customer data through Facebook, is likely still considered the data controller.
Meaning Acme is ultimately liable if Facebook messes up compliance regarding Acme's users.
That's a significant risk. You're essentially trusting your landlord to follow complex, changing rules perfectly, and if they fail, the fines could land on you. It's a huge, often overlooked risk exposure.
So by owning their own mini network.
Acme gets direct, granular control. They decide exactly where the user data lives. They choose the security protocols, maybe robust encryption. They set the data retention policies.
They become the master of their own data destiny.
Precisely. Moving from being a tenant, hoping the landlord behaves, to being a self-sovereign controller of their data environment. That's a massive de-risking move against regulatory nightmares, something the big platforms simply can't offer their tenants.
Okay, so we've established the why Acme Fitness Gear, why any brand or creator needs independence. But then there's the how.
A practical reality.
Historically, building your own social network meant what? Hiring a huge, expensive dev team, years of complex coding, ongoing maintenance headaches.
Yeah, a massive undertaking, often prohibitive for smaller companies or individual creators.
But that's changing now, largely thanks to the low-code revolution.
Exactly. Low-code and no-code platforms have exploded because businesses need to get digital applications, especially customer-facing ones, built fast.
They handle a lot of the complex coding behind the scenes.
Right. They abstract it away. The big benefit has always been speed of market. Get your app out there quickly.
But there was always a catch, wasn't there? A question mark over things like scalability.
That was the traditional trade-off. Could a platform built with low code actually handle, millions of users? Could it perform reliably under heavy load?
Yeah.
Maintain security? That was the technical hurdle.
And this is where this idea of Web 4.0, these newer community solutions, claim to offer a leap forward.
That's the promise. We mentioned the Linkspreed or Web4.community example earlier. It illustrates this specific goal, achieving easy, non-technical self-sovereignty.
Getting you independence without needing a PhD in computer science.
And achieving what you might call perfect marketing metrics. Really high retention, super low acquisition costs, high efficiency, true digital independence.
And they make some pretty bold claims about speed. That Linkspreed one, build your own social network in 30 seconds, no coding required.
Yeah, that's the headline claim.
Okay, 30 seconds. It sounds like marketing hype, frankly, especially for someone like the Acme founder who might be worried about that performance risk we just talked about. How does that even work? How do you bypass all the traditional setup servers, databases, configurations that quickly?
It relies heavily on abstraction and pre-configuration. These newer Web 4.0 tools often use sophisticated underlying engines, state engines, rules engines that handle the infrastructure heavy lifting automatically.
So the user doesn't need to worry about servers.
No. You're not configuring databases or spinning up virtual machines. The platform provides a pre-built, scalable architecture. Think of it like a digital chathy for a community.
And the 30 seconds is just.
It's the time to basically plug in your branding, maybe set some initial community guidelines or topics. The complex engineering, the stuff that takes years, is already done and maintained by the platform provider. It removes those traditional barriers of deployment and ongoing infrastructure management.
Okay, that makes more sense technologically. But let's talk money. For Acme Fitness Gear, moving from a free Facebook group to paying for an owned platform, that's a real cost. How do they justify that investment? Where's the ROI?
The financial justification is actually pretty stunning, but it's about the long-term compounding effect of ownership.
Okay.
The data we're seeing suggests companies that really succeed in shifting their community from leased land onto their own owned platform. They see their revenue increase, on average, by 2.8 times.
2.8-fold, nearly triple the revenue.
Yeah, 2.8x compared to their previous model relying solely on the big platforms.
Wow, okay, that's not marginal. That's game-changing. How does that happen mathematically for Acme? Break down the 2.8x.
It's really a two-lever system. It hits both customer acquisition cost to Turkey and customer lifetime value, CLV.
Okay.
Acme stops burning money on increasingly expensive Facebook ads just to rent access to an audience. That's reducing their SAC, or at least making it more predictable.
Right, they're shifting budget away from ads.
And redirecting that capital, that focus, into building their own community asset. We already heard that owned communities drive a 16% higher rate of intense loyalty.
So customers stick around longer.
They stay longer, they buy more often, maybe their average order value goes up because they're more engaged and trusting. That boosts CLV. And you need less marketing spend to keep them.
So less money spent acquiring, more value extracted over time from each customer.
Exactly. They've essentially turned a variable, unpredictable expense, renting ads, into a strategic compounding asset, the owned, loyal community. That 2.8-fold increase captures the combined power of lower CAC and higher CLV. It's the financial reward for achieving digital independence.
That paints a very compelling picture. But okay, running a successful community, especially as it grows, it's not just about the tech or the ROI. It needs good governance, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You need trust, fairness. This is where the big platforms often stumble with their top-down, sometimes arbitrary moderation.
Yeah, inconsistency, lack of transparency. It erodes trust. A mature, self-sovereign community needs something better. It needs systems.
But we're seeing new models emerge here, too, like using code for governance.
Yes, concepts like using a policy kit, basically writing the community rules and enforcement processes directly into code that executes automatically.
Okay, give us a real-world example for Acme.
Yeah.
Let's say a member posts something really aggressive, maybe violates their code of conduct about respectful debate. What happens with a policy kit?
So because Acme's rules are codified, the system can automatically detect a likely violation based on keywords or sentiment analysis.
Okay.
Now, instead of relying on one busy human moderator to catch it and make a judgment call, the policy kit could be programmed to, say, randomly select 3 experienced community members who've opted into moderation duty.
Okay, distributes the load.
Exactly.
Yep.
It anonymously presents the flag post and the specific rule violated to those 3 members. It collects their votes on the right action, maybe a warning, a content removal, a temporary suspension. It tallies the votes and automatically enforces the majority decision. The action is logged transparently, maybe without revealing voter identities.
So the enforcement is consistent, based on pre-agreed rules, and distributed among peers.
That's the key difference. It scales the process of trust and fairness because it's codified, transparent, and often peer-based without needing to linearly scale the cost of hiring more and more human moderators.
You decouple moderation workload from community size.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
It allows for a more democratic, or at least procedurally fair, community governance model. It's a stark contrast to the opaque, top-down, often perceived as arbitrary moderation of the big centralized platforms.
It's like making the community itself partly responsible for its own health through automated, fair processes.
It's the practical application of self-sovereignty extending not just to the platform owner, but to the community's internal governance too. Hashtag outro.
All right, let's try and bring all these threads together. Synthesize what we've uncovered in this deep dive.
Yeah, the big picture.
It seems clear the current situation, relying on these giant monopolies, it's unstable. The economics, the regulatory risks, the lack of control demands a change in strategy, especially for creators, founders, anyone building a community or brand online.
We need more niche networks. The evidence suggests users actually want them. They prefer multi-homing. They like specialized spaces for different parts of their lives. Centralized monopolies just don't cater well to that. Plus, they carry those huge privacy and control risks. We're forced onto that unstable leased land.
But the how is changing. The path to independence, to building your own mini-kingdom, is becoming way more accessible.
That's the exciting part. These low-code Web 4.0 tools, like the Linkspreed example, promising a network in 30 seconds. They're dramatically lowering the barrier to entry.
Removing the need for massive technical teams.
Right. This tech empowers creators to actually seize ownership, manage their risks, and critically unlock potentially huge financial upside. Shifting spend from renting audiences to owning relationships, that 2.8x revenue potential is a powerful incentive.
It makes you think about history, doesn't it? Big technological shifts, they don't always start by immediately replacing the incumbent giant.
Rarely. Think about personal computers. They started niche with hobbyists. Open source software, same thing. Even things like Substack challenging centralized media models.
They start with a specific group solving a problem the mainstream hasn't fully grasped yet.
Exactly. And maybe the problem here is that deep-seated, growing need for autonomy, for control, for genuine connection in our digital lives, a need the monopolies aren't meeting.
So the key question emerging from all this, it's probably not, will these mini networks replace Facebook tomorrow?
No, that's likely the wrong question, a false dichotomy.
The real question is, can they consistently prove their value? Can they create these high-value, specialized, trusted environments for creators and communities who are demanding that autonomy and control?
And can that success in the niches, powered by this easier tech and smarter governance, can that eventually crack the code for wider adoption? Will it create models that become increasingly attractive to more and more people?
That feels like the multi-billion-dollar question for the next phase of the internet. So turning it back to you listening, what stands out to you about this idea? About building and truly owning your own specialized digital community? What possibilities does that open up?